All right, let's kick this next one off. And there was a interesting assumption made on the movie machine calculator, which is that you could get on average $10 per sale of a movie. And that sounds crazy, except you all are probably thinking about how you sell films the wrong way. And I want to break how you think about selling all films, uh, because there's a better way to go about it. And it's all about this one concept called the retention point. And if we understand this concept, we can actually create better stories that are easier to market that can make more money. And that sounds crazy, but it's actually not, because this is just about human nature and human behavior and all about ultimately building trust to create stories people really love. So when we think about films that people love and how it works right now is people oftentimes churn through different subscriptions just to get one show they want on Netflix or HBO, right? And then they'll stick around a couple months to just get that one show. What is a consumer willing to pay for one movie or TV show that they really love? The answer is clearly a good bit of money. $10 seems like a fair point. It would actually be a deal compared to what people are getting. If you count like what you're subscribing to Netflix for, paying $200 a year, you might only watch 3 or 4 seasons you really like. That is really, really key. And does anyone know the app Drama Box? James can link out to my video on Drama Box. It's just one example of what I'm about to talk about here. But it's an app that creates niche microdramas using humans, not AI. And they charge anywhere from 30 to 50 cents per episode. And the episodes are only 90 seconds long. They currently are downloaded on a daily basis more times in the US on iOS to Android than Netflix on average. And microdramas are now going to be a multi-billion dollar industry in the United States. If you think about filmmaking and the business of filmmaking, how it's been done, sure, we can, there's a lot of, this all can feel very limiting. But the problem is that you shouldn't be thinking about it like filmmaking's been done, because this is not about the traditional models, how movies are traditionally sold. This is about creating new experiences and new business models native to AI that ultimately serve the viewer better. And why is DramaBox working so well? Well, they're working so well because of this one feature. So by going to Creatorwood, I'm going to share my screen now, you'll see that we do something interesting. For each of your, actually, I'll sign into my other account because it's better. Let's do this one. Actually, I'll sign in over here. Um, you'll see something. It's a piece of data that changes, in my opinion, how we think about making movies. And it's the only data point that really matters, which is that you are absolutely correct if you think a customer who's never watched your film is definitely not going to pay $10 up front to watch your film. There's no way that's happening. That's going to be very, very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do. The thing is, we're not going to do that because we understand something that other people don't, which is the retention point. Now, what is the retention point? The retention point is the moment in which, when viewers get to that point, they are basically hooked. They're going to keep watching your film. Now, in Creatorwood, we show you every single episode exactly what the completion rate is. By definition, the retention point would be when your completion rate goes above 90%. When your completion rate's above 90%, now we know they are hooked. Your incentive is to make your film free up to that point and then start charging for it. And Creatorwood literally lets you on an episode by episode basis charge different amounts of your film. This is also, if you're not planning to use Creatorwood, that's not up to you. Like, it's up to you. Absolutely. You own all the content in your films. We have no studio and something like that. You still need to be thinking through this process. How am I going to get data on when my viewers are hooked? If they're never hooked and they drop off in your story at a high rate, you don't have a film. There's nothing there. But once you hook them, you can start to charge a good bit more because you built trust. Now, how much easier is it to get people to watch 10 minutes of something free versus 99 cents of something paid? Way easier. So it makes all of your marketing easier. Now, this isn't a new tactic. When indie publishing came about, really, this is now the rise of this new indie film industry. there was tons of free books and 99 cents books that came about that were first in series that then led people into the rest of the story and hooked them. And then they were willing to pay $5 per book afterwards. And sometimes way more. Now it's on average, like a lot of authors are charging $8 per ebook in many genres. A movie, first of all, they will own this movie. They can rewatch it, and people often do. Second of all, on average, the average YouTube video, and I have this on data from the YouTube C-suite, is watched by 1.3 people, meaning that when you're buying a film, on average, you're basically buying 1.3 uses of it. When you read a book, yeah, you do share it with friends, but movies and shows are very, very social, meaning you could be buying access for all your friends for that same amount. You can't stop that. Like, someone wants to put it on their TV in their home and watch it with their kids. That's what they're going to do. So it's not the same thing. But again, they need to know that they really like it. And what you need to be thinking about your whole business as is essentially a very simple but fun math equation. And regardless of how you choose to make money or what you're doing, there's two things that go into this: your production cost, your marketing cost, or someone else's marketing cost, and the profit that comes in. And someone will either understand this equation and take your rights and take most of your profit because they know how to exploit it, or you can understand it and go through more awareness, whether you want to go and build your own business or whether you want to give your rights to someone else and have them market it for you. Whatever you want to do, you need to be empowered to understand this equation. And it's simple. It's a simple equation. And honestly, once you understand it, you view it all differently. And you realize I don't need to go make a whole movie to prove my business out. You just don't. You just don't. And what we'll talk about here, because I have like two different slideshows to go through. And finally, our first little bonus here. So what I am trying to get you all to do is adopt strategy. So I'm going to dive into my strategy session here. Now, let me first copy this bonus in the chat. I'm going to mention something, and it's a deck of cards. Let me pull it out for you. This is a deck of cards that I made originally to help authors market their books. It's 50 superpowers. Now you can get them for free, completely for free. You have to pay like nothing on my mailing list, authorsidekick.com. Now you might not consider yourself as an author, but the advice I'm sharing to market yourself as an author is not just based on my experience as an author, or before this, I built a software platform that helps authors make millions of dollars a year in membership. So I know how creators can make money doing what they do, but I also worked for the largest video creator in the world. So I was part of the key person on their strategy team. I know exactly how to get people to watch your things online. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but I know what it takes. And with that, I put everything I know into this deck of cards, everything completely. And you can get it for free at authorsidekick.com. And if you want the actual physical deck delivered to your house, I'm also giving it to you completely for free, limited time. That's just for you guys here. And I'm also going to give it to people for the next 3 days. If you go to authordecks.com and enter the code BETA, you get them completely free. You just have to pay shipping. Which shipping, it's going to be shipped from Texas. So depending on if you're international, shipping might be a little expensive, which I apologize for. But if you're in the US, shipping and handling should be definitely under $10. And you get this shipped right to your door in a cute little package. And they're all illustrated. And again, this is just to give you power to understand the business of storytelling. Because ultimately, if you don't understand the business of storytelling, people who do will take advantage of you. And I don't want that to happen. So you can go to authorsidekick.com or authordecks.com. Tell me if it works. Hopefully the links work. Tell me if the beta code works. If not, reach out to our support. James can definitely help you with that. I'm going to be talking about these. Okay, so that's point one. Point two is there's not one way to market your stories. I'm not going to be prescriptive. And I'm not trying to even share that today. But again, what I want to share is the fundamentals that drives this business so that you can understand, whether you work with someone or not, how to make money. So let's talk about that strategy. And by the way, what I'm really excited to do now, because I haven't talked much on our mailing list, like I feel like because we've been so quiet about the movie machine and having to wait till it's launched, what I will do every week, by the way, and James, you can put the link to this as well. First of all, if you haven't read the Creatorwood book, which is free, and James will link to it, it basically gives you a crash course in what I'm about to share with you. I'm just going to go into even more detail. So that's number one. Number two is I have a podcast called Beyond the Book and another podcast called Creatorwood, where I share like on a weekly basis. Creatorwood's been a little bit spotty because we've been preparing for launch, but soon will be on a weekly basis, business and ultimately advice about how to think about creating films and stories that can help you turn this into a career. Because we had someone, and she's here right now, who texted me like, This is so much fun using the movie machine. I just want to be able to do this as a full-time living. And that's exactly what I want to help you do. And I can't make any promises. I'm just going to give you knowledge, and that knowledge is power. And I hope you can use it. And again, of course, like I want to help you when I do things. But again, I'm the anti-promise. I give you power. With power comes responsibility, but I'm going to give you the superpowers. So let's dive into it. Yes, there's a free version that's digital. So if you guys want the physical version, you don't need to get the physical version, to be very clear. You do not need to get it. But if you want it, go to there. We're going to finally dive into the session, I promise. But the diversion for gifts was good. And then please, if you haven't already, email hello@creatorwood.tv. We'll drop 100 coins into your account. Just give us your account email. Where we're doing, and this is only, the cards will be for everyone. This is only if you're live. So if you haven't claimed that yet, claim it, just as another reminder. Okay. Oof. With that preamble, let's dive into our second slideshow of the day, which there'll be more to come. But this one I personally love, and I have a story behind it. So let's share screen, and then we will go into slideshow mode. Great, we're in slideshow mode. So should be loaded now. And let me see. It looks like y'all, is it working? Hello@creatorwood.tv. Just type in hello@creatorwood.tv, and you email us at hello@creatorwood.tv, and we'll give you the coins. hello@creatorwood.tv. Email us with your email of your account. James can put the instructions in there. Yeah, hello@creatorwood.tv. Exactly. Okay. So now we're gonna know our strategy, because I want to walk away. So there's three goals I have for today, right? I want to teach you how to use the movie machine. I want to teach you about what's happening in this industry, and I want to teach you how to make money with this, because all three of these things are how we can take power back as storytellers and accomplish what my mission is, which is to help you all, every storyteller over the world. Here's the thing, though. The secret goal is that I know, out of a room of, what is there, 80 people live now? Maybe 8 of you end up making a movie in October. Maybe. That would be blowout success for us. I'd be extremely happy with that. And there's no pressure. We're not expecting all of you to run and make movies right away. If you want to, I hope you do. And that'd be really exciting. We're working every day to make that something that you can do. But all 80 of you are going to leave from here. And yes, now you have knowledge. Maybe you come back and make a movie in November or December or next year or 3 years from now. That's great. But what are you going to take from today outside of just inspiration to benefit your life as a storyteller? That's this part of it. Because regardless of what you choose to create, this strategy of being a storyteller and the business behind it applies. So let's talk about it. And this is one of the cards here that I talk about, the Superpowers deck. As a reminder, you can get it totally for free at authorsidekick.com. But there's 5 questions I like to ask myself when marketing anything. Mind you, this was designed specifically for books, but the principles truly do apply. I printed 1,000 of them before we started Creatorwood, and it doesn't make sense for me to print another 1,000. I'm just giving them away for free. So that's what we're doing. I could change it to not say author on the card, but there's a lot of them in the warehouse. Maybe there'll be a new edition, but ultimately it's the same information. And there's 5 questions that I want you all to ask. And it's what I want you to start to think about as you think about, what am I going to do with this movie machine? And mind you, I want to give my caveat, which is, you saw the video opening up a couple hours ago. If you didn't, it'll be in the recording. I love storytelling. I love the art of this. I'm a creative, but I've learned some hard lessons that made me realize I got to put my business hat on too. And you're going to be getting business, Michael, today, and the business talk, because you need it. You need the reality, and you need someone who's going to be straight up with you and not give you the cold of, and Hollywood's classic for this: a bunch of promises, no follow through. I'm going to give you reality and what this really takes. And part of it's going to be oh, but I just want to have fun and make cool things. And absolutely, I want you to have fun and make cool things. And if your takeaway from this is just, I want to have fun, make cool things, I have this story to tell, and I need to share it with the world. Absolutely. But we can't expect any financial return if we don't go in with a strategy to try and get it. And even if we do go into a strategy to try and get it, we still can't expect a financial return, which I'll talk about. So this is the what I want to paint the picture for you all, right? Is like I'm sharing this because I want to help you all make money with this because I realize Movie Machine isn't cheap. And the reason it's not cheap is because of all the expenses it takes to make it run. I wish we could make it cheaper. So with that said, these are the 5 questions to think about if you want to turn your stories into a business. Okay? The first one is who is your story for? And this is all about finding your people, finding your viewers. We're going to walk through all these 5 questions. The next one is how will you share your story with those readers? By the way, I have a hunch that we're going to go above an hour on this because there's so much to cover, but it's like really good stuff we're about to cover here. And this is not, we're not done with business for today. We're going to revisit the business conversation in a little bit. But who is your story for, right? Then how will you share your story with those readers? That's what we call teleportation powers. It's like, how can you get your story to teleport, your movie, your show, your book, your anything, right? And that's really important. And mind you, if you are pitching an executive to the studio, they basically are looking for the answers to these questions. Like if you can't give them a plan for them to answer it and for them to put money into marketing it, then you're dead in the water. You're dead in the water. So these are the rules. Then the next question, and this is the super crucial point, and where we're going to save you a lot of money and a lot of stress, is asking the question systematically. Are those viewers, are those readers, is the audience interested in your story? It doesn't matter if you have great packaging and a great hook if you can't actually get them to want to keep watching. And that's what the pilot process is all about. How can I take a little bit of money relative to producing a full thing and test that this is a viable story that I can A, reach viewers with, and B, get them to keep watching? Next is how will you find a lot more viewers like them? We're going to talk about this later. This is a later question. How do you scale up? How do you take a strong foundation and scale up? That's a later question. And then how will you turn your story into an empire? All of this goes back to one equation, which is how much money will you make from a viewer over their lifetime watching your stories? And how much does it cost you to reach them and create content for them? And if you can turn that equation positive, you will make money. And the trick is this: almost no one makes a ton of money on film one. Mind you, I'm not trying to say that you should lose money either. But the real profit comes in, and when this business gets really exciting, is when viewers come and watch film two, film three, film four. It creates something that we'll discuss called cumulative advantage, meaning if I do a bunch of marketing for my first film, I get 100 viewers. Cool. I'm not quite at break even yet, right? Most likely. Now, my second film, I might get another 100 new viewers because I do the same marketing and I get new people in. But 70 of those people who watch film one might go and watch and buy film two. So now you have 170. And now film three, do you see where this starts to compound? It's a snowball. And this is why like Hollywood has just went all in on franchises and frankly killed itself because franchises make money. You should be trying to build your own mini franchise and mind your own mini franchises. The problem is Hollywood has stopped taking risks because the money is so easy. It's so good on those franchises. But ultimately, like that is the business of everything. Even if you're not creating a series, because you don't have to, you want to still build trust in you as a storyteller for people to want to keep following you. Like, yeah, like Christopher Nolan isn't always working on the next big franchise, but you bet he's built his career on people wanting to watch another Christopher Nolan movie. You want to make sure viewers want to watch more films from you. If it's just about one film, where it's not sustainable, right? It's not sustainable. So this is really big, and it's why asking ourselves these questions in this order: who is our story for? How can we reach them? And then is our story actually serving them? Is it actually engaging them? Are the key questions. So we'll dive into how to answer them now. So again, this is my definition of strategy coming from, I worked on strategy team at Mr. Beast. For those who don't know Mr. Beast, he has 400 million YouTube subscribers. There's 400 employees there now. They're going to make close to $1 billion in revenue this year. He's a single creator, by the way. And I was working on his data team to understand how we can make the videos go more viral and grow the business. That was my first job, my only job probably ever, my first job out of college. I've mostly been an entrepreneur my whole life, but it was too cool an opportunity to pass up. And I learned a lot about strategy. And ultimately how I define strategy in anything in life. If you all work for businesses, run your own businesses too, outside of storytelling, this is how I define strategy. It's a set of questions and resulting decisions that guide our business. This would be storytelling business in our context. Whether you know it or not, your strategy dictates the why, how, and what for every decision you make. And our biggest mistake is that we spend so much time trying to decide what to do. We rarely pause to ask the assumptions we're making, right? So let's say we're so worried about how do we make this movie that we're not asking ourselves, what is the actual model and the assumptions we're making to get profitable. Like, for instance, if you do charge $5 upfront for your movie, you're making an assumption that you can get someone who has never watched your movie to pay $5 for it upfront, sight unseen. Well, maybe you need trailers in that case. Maybe you need to make the first bit of it free. And in that case, the other assumption is if you're trying to make a full length movie, do you need to make a full length movie to prove if people will actually watch it and pay you? That's an assumption that, like, the strategy doesn't have to be that. The strategy could instead be I want to save as much money as possible, which means spending as little money as possible to validate if my film concept will work, which means generating less video, right? In our context, in the world of Creatorwood. But this also applies for books too. It applies for any media format. How do you do this? And mind you, this is an extreme like way of looking at it. But I haven't looked at it this way sometimes, and it's burnt me. And I'll share what that means in a second. So yes, I worked on this strategy team for Mr. Beast. I already talked about it. I used to have a mustache a year ago. It was a phase. I guess everyone at Mr. Beast has a mustache. If you don't know, Jimmy has a mustache. That's Mr. Beast's real name. But what I realized when it came to storytelling in books is that for me, I thought that there was this like gold rush in the indie publishing space. And I'll describe the context that I see happening here, which is once you realize you can make film, the strategy becomes like, I make as much of it as possible. I have movie one, movie two, movie three, movie four, movie five. I'm just going to churn it all out and get as much out as possible. And mind you, you can do that. You can do that. But as the cost of creation goes to zero, which is going to happen, all of a sudden, like, there's already too much movies to watch. There's going to be way more than too much movies to watch. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean the movies your viewers want to watch exist. No, that certainly there's movies that need to exist that don't exist. But more content doesn't equal better content. More content doesn't equal better business. Okay. And I did this myself. I thought more books was better. So I released 9 books in a span of 9 months. I literally was writing a book a month and I completely burned out. It was terrible. And in this case, burnout with Creatorwood probably looks like burning out both financially and emotionally if you're trying to create that many movies in 9 months. But I think that's the natural instinct. It's just like once you get the business model down, I'm just going to create more and more and more. And it took me learning ultimately more about this world of entrepreneurship and business strategy in general to realize that there isn't just one way to build a business, which maybe is the sort of tough part I'm leaving you with here, which is I'm not recommending you all have one strategy to release your films, one strategy to market them. I'm trying to give you a framework for you to build your own way, whether that's going to Hollywood and using AI as a wedge into Hollywood, whether that's going direct to your fans and using like Creatorwood, whether that's doing YouTube and creating an animation studio native to YouTube. I'm here for all of it, but we have to ask ourselves these fundamental questions. So ultimately, a lot of people think strategy is a scary word. And I happen to love it because I was a huge risk player. I love thinking strategically, but ultimately, you don't have to have these instincts to learn how to be a great strategist and to think this way. So the biggest thing is you need to understand what game we're all playing, right? That's the first rule of strategies. Understand what the winning condition looks like. And if you're, let's say, strategizing how to win Monopoly or a board game, the rules are pretty simple. But the rules sometimes are less clear in a creative endeavor like what we're doing. But if we're talking about the creative business of it, the real thing is to take one bet on something foundational over a long period, which ultimately means creating for a specific audience, sharing stuff with them in a very specific way. So like one bet would be that I anticipate someone will make is that we need more basketball romance movies and shows in the world. And I'm going to build that audience knowing this, that the economies of this industry are non-normal, meaning we have a power law. The power law states that a small percentage of the films make most of the money. And even as there's more films produced, democratizing creation doesn't mean democratizing distribution. Distribution, and I will say this bluntly, will never be democratized. Creatorwood makes it possible to distribute. It will never, ever be democratized. Anyone promising you that they can guarantee you views, guarantee you anything is lying because the numbers are startling. But I'm telling you the numbers so that you can go into it with the right expectations, which is this. In indie publishing, which is going to be the best analogy for what's happening here, as we ultimately the market's going to get flooded with new films. 90% of books are never going to earn more than $1,000, meaning that 90% of the time, making back your movie money is going to be challenging. Now, this counts every single book and movie, every book ever created, right? And a lot of them didn't put in the effort. There was no strategy. There was no anything, right? So I'm not suggesting that you automatically end up in the bottom 90%, but there's a distribution of non-normal outcomes, meaning it's not like the top 10% make 10% of the income. It's not like the top 10% make 20% of the income. The top 10% make basically 99% of the money. The top 10%. But it gets a little bit more startling than that. The top 1%, and I can say this with verifiable data. I used to run a platform with over 10,000 storytellers on it, help them build their businesses. It was a software platform, similar to Patreon for authors. And literally, and this is the distribution I've seen on every single platform, 0.1%, 1 in 1,000 make over half the income, and 1% make 70%. Just let that sink in, because I'm not the biggest thing when people look at this, and I could easily say the easiest thing for me ever to do would be to get up here and tell you, make movies, flood the market, and get rich. But that's not what this is. And it's not going to happen for most of you. It's just statistically a fact. Now, maybe again, I want to set you guys up to have increase your odds of success, right? Because they're taking everyone in the world and looking at indie storytelling and also social media too. It's the same numbers everywhere. It's the same numbers everywhere. But then you might be wondering, why? Is this some evil algorithm? What causes this? And the answer is it's human nature. As a species, we are what I'll call the networked species or a network effect species. We all gravitate towards few things that travel very virally through word of mouth. Examples, cities. Almost every city has a cultural, every industry has a city that it becomes the center of it. Like Hollywood. Hollywood, you can film anywhere now. Creatorwood, you can be anywhere. But why does Hollywood still hold so much power? Even when, let's be real, like Georgia's given better tax credits and Atlanta sure has grown as a film hub, but Hollywood still is the place. Why? Because there's now so many people there that more people just continue to gravitate towards it. New York is that way for finance. And it also works that way for stories, whether it's religion and religious stories. We all know the few religions that most people ascribe to. And that is literally another network effect. It's also that way about any belief. It's also that way for any social platform that people you follow. It's also true for every single genre ever. So the takeaway here, because this is now sounding really stark, right, is wow, Michael's basically telling me I will never sell a film, I will never make it. And that's not true. But I'm definitely not telling you you're guaranteed to make it, which is what most people tell you. Most people, it's way easier to sell someone a crock of shit than the reality, which is that this is hard. And I'm telling you that because I want you to know it. But I also want you to be armed to actually accomplish it, which again, you can get all these for free. And I'm going to try and give you as much support as humanly possible. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is this. Hollywood, right, has a broken power law. And I'm completely like, this sounds, we're getting kind of really nuanced here, but I think you guys will get this. Hollywood operates on the same fundamentals because everyone operates on the same fundamentals. This is human nature, meaning Hollywood has to go for top 1% films to make it. They have to actually go for top 0.1% films, which means that they're only creating things that can reach the entire market. Why? Because they're trying to get the entire power law of culture in a monoculture sense. We all go to the movies and we hear about Barbie. We all go to the movies and we hear about Avengers, right? They think about this as a zero sum. There's one power law. That is false. And we're going to blow that up with Creatorwood because in reality, there's thousands of mini power laws for every single community online and every single community of people who cares about something, right? Think about all the different niche genres that Hollywood doesn't touch because it doesn't make enough money for them. That there is a power law in that. There's actually $5 million in, maybe romance movies featuring trans superheroes, which we have someone literally on the platform who's going to be creating those. That's going to be amazing, and I think they're going to crush it. Yeah, the trans superhero movie isn't going to probably, mind you, it might probably won't be the next $100 million blockbuster. It could be, probably won't, right? But that still doesn't mean it's a story not worth telling. Except Hollywood would have spent $20 million to make it, and if it only made $5 million, would have lost money. It doesn't work. But if you're spending $2,000 to make it, all of a sudden $10,000, $100,000 is the ceiling. It's an interesting return. So what this means is that yes, there's still a power law, but there's a lot of room for new stories and new people to make a living, right? We're by bringing the cost of creation down, we also lower the barrier of success and allow new creative stories to be told. And this ultimately grows the market because Hollywood's going after monoculture, one big culture that exists, and it's tone deaf now. It's falling out of sight of what people want, which means that people are engaging less with Hollywood. They're engaging more with TikTok. They're engaging more with all these other platforms that don't really have episodic storytelling, scripted content in the way that we want to make as storytellers. And the answer is because, yeah, because these platforms have more content that can be more attuned to people's interests. But now we can do that with scripted content, with fictional content, with what we consider to be TV shows and movies, which has never happened before, which means that we can actually grow the pie of people and time and even dollars spent on movies. This isn't directly hitting back at Hollywood. They'll probably still dominate the huge cultural power law, mostly because to market these movies costs tens of millions of dollars. No one has that kind of money right now. And not in our space, right? We're the scrappy ones. But we can capture all of the rest that they've ignored. And all of the rest is huge, huge money. But you need to know what game you're playing. What power law you're trying to climb. And the more, the less first principles way to say it, the more just blunt way to say it is, who is your story for? And ultimately, who has Hollywood left out? That's what we call your story gap. And that's where the real opportunity is. So I'm obsessed with this. This is why there's this opportunity in film. It's literally, you're not competing with Hollywood. We're creating new markets and new power laws that still, to be clear, will have a power law distribution. There's still, out of all the trans superhero movies, will probably be a few people who make most of the money in that category. But how many categories can that be true for? And can that still create more mouths to feed and more people who can make a full-time living? The answer is many. And I think actually thousands, but that still is not a guarantee. Still, these numbers will apply. They're just going to look different in terms of the distribution. The ceiling might be different, the long tail might be different, but there's still room for a lot more people to succeed. So what's going to end up happening is we're going to have room for more stories to succeed because they're hitting markets that have not been touched before. We're literally generating new markets as we speak. That's what you all are doing here. It's so crazy. Like, you're literally doing things that have never been put on film before. And that's going to lead to net new inflow and attention into filmmaking, more money, but it's going to be unequally distributed. With that said, it's not all going to go to one person. It's going to go to thousands of people. But the thing is, millions of people are going to be doing this. Millions of people will be creating films. I have no doubt in that. Millions. So that's the thing. Millions of people won't make a living doing it. Millions are going to try. There will be maybe 10,000 people who end up making a full-time living. Hopefully there's tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 people in a year who can make their money back, and it's not going to be in a hole, but a lot of people won't. And that's really, like, that's tough, right? Because I'm now literally saying that, like, now, if we're going to take statistics here, most people who use this product, this platform that I've now created and invested a ton of time into, might not make their money back. That is tough. And this is where I give you what I'm trying to do to help that, which is A, one, I still think you're going to get really cool art and I hope it's worth it to you. But B, we don't have to spend all this money making a movie. We can figure out if our story is going to reach the top of the power law, if we have the ability to do that while spending much less money in a pocket. So it becomes a much cheaper experiment. And that is what I'm now going to shift gears to. So I know that's very heady, but like, the strategy ultimately is that. And I think in AI filmmaking, that's what the new strategy that AI filmmaking opens up. Otherwise, you're playing the same old game of, here's production cost, here's how big the film gets, and all of that. Like, we all know that intuitively. What I just shared, your film has to make money. You need to get more viewers than the production cost, and there needs to be a market for it. We all know. You guys are great. But the opportunity is how AI filmmaking changed the equation, because with such a lower production cost, the market that you can go after can now be much more niche and have less competition, which is very, very exciting. And mind you, this is where I think, to be one last tangent before we get to the meat here, Hollywood isn't going away. It's going to be reinvented by people who, again, all of this thinking through the marketing stuff, which we'll talk more about, and the business side of it. There's going to be people who understand this and build new studios native to AI. Maybe those people will be you. You might build an AI native studio understanding this, knowing that, wow, I can now invest, $5,000 in a pocket and get like 2 hours of film, right? Even less than that. And I can now, basically fund new movies with like very little out of pocket and test things. Like, there's going to be entrepreneurs who do really, really well here and create amazing things. What I'm excited about is like Creatorwood being the infrastructure to power this future of people building the new IP, the new franchises, the new products, the new studios. And I think that it becomes very synergistic with this ecosystem we have, because again, it's not competing, it's building everything where Hollywood missed. And I think you all, individual storytellers, understand what Hollywood's missing better than anyone else. So that is my long rant behind the business of this. But now let's go into the pilot process. I'm going to answer some questions first, though, because I imagine that was pretty heady for a lot of you. Um, So Will, we don't have any ads on Creatorwood right now. There's no ads. So yeah, I mean, eventually, if we were to have ads on the platform, which we very well may, we'll definitely profit share it. And it would be, definitely we'll beat out YouTube's profit share. They give you 55%. But ads are like way, way far down the line. And I'm not confident again if someone's paying for a film directly, like I'm sure there'll be ads at some point. I'm sure there'll be an ad-supported free model, but that's so far in the future. So far in the future. Is it possible to create films using different languages other than English? Yes, if you upload something into Creator with a story not in English, it should output it in the storyboard not in English. It should. And if it doesn't, let me know. With that said, we're going to be allowing you to create stories in English and dub it into other languages. That's coming. Um, Tom, great question. Uh, and we're going to be doing some stuff live soon too, Tom. In terms of the casting choices, I'm like, if the character's in your storyboard and in your start frame, it should be in the video. And if it's not in your start frame, you can then go and edit it. Um, yes, hello at creatorwood.com. Just email us and we'll be there to help you. Uh, yeah, yeah, we'll teach you how to get started, Rev. Um, and y'all check your email because we're doing the support through email, if that makes sense. And it'll be better just to keep it all there. So I was looking what was the email for the coins? Great, that was shared. Yeah, keep putting your question in the chat, and then we'll route specific issues to support so that we can handle you there. It'll be too messy if we like get into specific things in this chat. Just reach out to us. Yes, Danica, exactly. Uh, yeah, vertical films will come soon. We're just waiting on the tech to get better for the vertical films. You could crop your films to be vertical, wouldn't be as good. We could probably add auto cropping. But yeah, this is where it gets exciting. Like vertical films already are kind of like a sort of new market being created that's quite large, just underneath the belly of Hollywood in the niches and genres they've missed with the new business model. So that's very exciting. That, yeah. Yeah, no, very, very true, Troy, on that. And then, so the format for microdramas is like 9 by 16. It's like similar to like what a TikTok video or Instagram Reel video looks like. So it's not 1 by 1, but it's like more vertical than horizontal, if that makes sense. Yeah, the horizontal format won't easily adapt is correct, Annika. Okay. Let's dive into now something that you all were probably sent over email, but I'm gonna guess a lot of you didn't read it. So we're gonna dive into it together, and look at this. And this will be very exciting. So, this just share my screen again. We're going through tabs. This is the Creatorwood Bootcamp. It's designed to be A, simple, B, completely free, and C, a way for you to learn this process of pilot filmmaking. And look, some of you have different use cases. Some of you are literally going, Michael, I want to make a trailer. Or Michael, I'm doing this for pilot. I have this script I'm putting off to Hollywood. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Go for it. I love all of it and you should do all of it. But I also want to show you an option where you can approach if you do want to make a movie on Creatorwood. The one thing I can guarantee you is that Creatorwood will allow you to publish your film. We allow you to be able to do it, and we give you a chance at being able to make a business doing this. We can't guarantee anything, but the opportunity is there, and that's where Creatorwood gets exciting. So I want to teach you how to approach this opportunity so you, again, spend your money and time smartly and wisely. So let's walk through this boot camp, and I recommend you all literally do this yourself. This is where I start to have really fun. So I created a YouTube video about this. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may have not, about like the number one secret of hit films. And there's 3 steps I want you to identify that I think will kind of be the strategy for the who. Each one, by the way, each one of these questions in boot camp maps one to one onto the questions on the superpower cards. The superpower cards, think of it as like a deep dive, and then this is like the high level. And mind you, like I know this is a lot that I'm covering here. I'm like overloading you guys with information. So one, this will be recorded. And two is like knowledge is power. Like I want to give you it all. So sorry, it's a lot, but let's keep going. So find your story gap. So a story gap is an underserved demand in the storytelling market, right? Something audiences crave, but Hollywood or creators haven't fulfilled yet. So I give you some options to find one, basically doing basic market research. Go to Amazon, study top selling books in your genre, look at Netflix or Hulu, compare what's popular in books versus what's missing in films. Ultimately, this is what we talked about, right? The fact that you can now create something for an audience that previously wouldn't have been possible underneath the production budgets of Hollywood's model and now create it here. Because I know $2,000 for, 70-ish, 80-minute film, it's not cheap. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's cheap. But there's two things that are true about what we're doing. One is we are using the best possible partners to give you the best available technology today. Like we're not trying to give you like for $5 you get like a crap film. Like you can use like really bad stuff that exists out there. We're not that. By the way, nothing exists that does what Creatorwood does to actually help you make movies. But meaning we could use partners and we could use AI models that are cheaper. We don't do that deliberately because I would pay nothing for a bad movie and I would pay a lot for a good movie. I think we're all in a similar boat there. The second thing is that it's still remarkably affordable compared to traditional filmmaking, right? Remarkably affordable. And I know it's not, within everyone's budget to create something that's 90 minutes long, but as we're going to discuss, you don't need to. Step two, know your audience. So this one is all about ultimately, whether it's diving into the Reddits, the Facebook groups, you want to know what your audience is passionate about so that you can create a story or choose the right story you've already written that will work for them, right? Like you want to know like what are the other stories that they're watching? Where can you find these people? Where are they? And the next thing to kind of think about is then the format of this. Is the scaled up version of this? We'll talk about the pilot next, but are you trying to make a movie? Is it going to be an episodic series? Is it going to be vertical or horizontal? Which again, we're going to be adding support for vertical soon. These are all like the big questions to ask yourself. And it's very fun. So this is step one. I think we covered this mostly, but I wanted to review it because this is where it gets exciting, which is the pilot process. And the fundamental idea behind a pilot is there's 3 reasons a story sells. It's not a mystery why a film can sell. It's not a mystery how a film gets into the top 1% of sellers in its genre. It's not a mystery how it can get into the top 10% and have a good shot at breaking even. Top 10% is what you really want to go to break even. Top 0.1% is like pretty life-changing, but all of it's great. All of it's on the table. It's not a secret how they accomplish it. They accomplish 3 things. They get traffic, and I talk about this in this specific card. It's called the testing trick. They get traffic. They use what's called the traffic test right here. I'm just going to put this up here to bring people to their story. And they understand how to bring traffic to their film. Essentially, they're getting eyeballs in their film and they've tested it because here's the deal. If you have something that you don't know where to find the people or they don't want it, it's going to be very hard to get them to click on a link or show interest or want to actually show up, right? Like you need to actually create something that's interesting, which is where so much of this is not about learning how to market my story, but it's learning marketing so you can create a story that can be marketed, right? It's creating a film that can be distributed, that is marketable. So that first question is, can I get traffic? The second test is, can I package my story to get something that viewers want? Is the title something people are interested in? Is that description or high-level show thumbnail something that they want to click into and actually watch more of? And then it's what I call the hook test, which is the first bit of this film something that people want? Is the first bit of this film something that can get people engaged and excited? Once you answer these, we are in a really good position to now start to think about scaling our story. But you don't need to make a whole movie to answer this. First of all, you literally just need to share on social media, share with your friends. I'll share more how you could think about doing this. But ideas are cheap. Ideas are free. You can share story ideas anywhere, right? So you don't need to spend any money to generate a story idea and see if people will be interested in the story idea. The next step is if you want to see if people are interested in watching your story, you don't need to make something that's an hour long to test people will be willing to watch it. When I was at Mr. Beast, I would get access to something called a retention graph. Let me show you what these look like on YouTube so that you can understand the analogy for what your graphs will look like on Creatorwood. So I'll actually show you this video on the Creatorwood channel because it's going to follow pretty much the same rules as always. So it's unbelievable, by the way, how this all works. Every single video I've ever watched is the same. I have access to very big YouTubers' YouTube accounts, and I see it, and it's the same. So when we watch a video, and it's the same thing when we watch a longer series too. drop off is disproportionately in the beginning. So we see this here, right around minute 2 in this video, people are mostly hooked. Yeah, there's still drop off, but most of the people who dropped off were going to do it by minute 2. This is a 15-minute long video. And this is a video, this is all you. This is you all who watch this. This has gotten maybe 550 views over the last day, 2 days or 3 days. So this graph tells us this. One, if everyone's dropping off immediately, like if no one was watching it, like that would be a really bad sign. You guys liked it. Mind you, we could have hooked it better. It could have been a better video, yada, 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 right? But the equation here that I would think about is if your total film is going to be 100 minutes long, a good pilot is 10% of that length. Hear me? That's the number to write down. 10%, because that's where I consistently see across media formats, including this, including YouTube, where it stops. And I also literally built a software recently to help authors understand when readers stop turning their page on the stories, mostly for fun, because I want to see how it works on my books and also get more data in another media format on like when people drop off in reading books. But in videos, like this is pretty much like tried and true 10%. I can say that with a high degree of confidence. 10% into the video, you're golden. You're golden. So we now have taken your project cost and probably brought it down by 80 to 85% to get going. Automatically, like my recommendation for you all is to only generate the first 10% to get going and then start to release it wherever you want to. We'll talk about the distribution side of it next. That's in a future session. That's later. We're getting to it. We're getting to it. Remember, we got 4 hours left. But that's what I recommend you do. That I hope takes a big weight off your shoulders. You need a lot less than you think to test this out. If you're doing it right, because again, once you see that you've hooked people in those first couple minutes, great. First of all, you got viewers already. Huge. We'll talk about how to do that in the distribution section, but amazing. Again, we're going to talk about how to do that. I'm not telling you how to do that yet, or the ways you could. There's not one way to do it, but I'm just telling you the principles. But like, that's amazing. You have viewers, you're 10% in. Whether you've made your money back or not at this stage, you can now take a more informed bet, hypothesis, investment into making the rest of your film. Or better yet, instead of making your film 60 minutes long, producing the first 6 minutes, then seeing the first 6 minutes is where everyone drops off, you could regenerate the first 6 minutes of your film and make a new pilot. And you could make 10 pilots for the cost of one movie. You think with 10 shots on goal, you could finally get a movie that's going to do well? I think so. I think so. And that's the game. The game is understanding, like, how can you learn faster than everyone? Because the whole truth here, and this is the biggest kicker, is the people who make all the money aren't the best storytellers. We all know that. We all know that. They're storytellers who've optimized parts of their stories in specific ways to drive more engagement and word of mouth. That's the behind the scenes of what's happening here. And they've done that not because they're better storytellers, although they might create stories that are better for their business, that make them more money. They've done this because of something called the Matthew effect. The Matthew effect is that small changes in any sort of number can lead to outsized outcomes, which is this: small differences in your retention, improvements by 10%, don't lead to 10% more sales. They can lead to 20, 30 times more sales in the line. That's a little bit dramatic, but 10% more retention is going to lead to a huge growth, meaning you're going to see 10% more people, first of all, watching your film and buying it. You're then going to see an additional 10% in word of mouth because they'll finish the end, at least. And that's going to lead to 10% more people now coming back in and buying your film again. And it's a flywheel. The flywheel spins 10% faster. So it's 10% compounded, almost like if you're investing in a stock and you're getting return at 8% versus 5%. It's not just that person made 3% more money than you. If that person compounds that over 10 years, they will be they'll have way more money than you. The same thing's true here. You will have way more of an audience over time when you nail these things. It's understanding these fundamentals and understanding that all the leverage comes in the first 10% of your film. 90% of your leverage is in the first 10% of your film, meaning you should focus on that, getting that out, improving that, and learning. You don't need to make a full movie right away, not without testing it, improving it. And that is the end of our pilot session. I do want to share with you more about how this pilot process works, but we have the boot camp for it and it's totally free. So we'll make sure it's linked in the description here. And I think you guys got the primer on it. So we have a roadmap of the rest of our day together. We're going to dive into movie making and some live scene sessions. Next, I think we're going to do that for an hour, maybe 2 hours, at least an hour. So that'll be at the top of the hour. We're going to dive into the movie making on Creatorwood, see what it does live. And then will be kind of in the last quarter, the last kind of like home stretch of our summit here. And what I want to discuss then is really a set of three things. Where should you distribute your film if you're going to? How should you distribute it? How should you get eyeballs on it? Whether it's someone else doing the work for you or yourself. And then three, um, what opportunities exist beyond the screen for you to be able to like benefit from your movies? Because we're thinking about this too narrowly if we're just thinking about this as getting viewers to watch your movies and pay for things. Like I think that's the near-term business model, but there's a bigger picture here that I want to share with you. And it's essentially how you can build your own mini Disney. When I say mini Disney, I don't mean an amusement park, but a world around your films. So we're going to cover all of that. That's our roadmap for the next 4 hours. So we're officially at the halfway mark. So now's a great time to take a rest, take a break. I'm going to answer any questions that came up, and then I'll probably take a 2 or 3 minute break too before we head into the next hour. Yes, Ian, well, you can post to Creatorwood, right? And share it with people on that platform, and you will see right here. Let me show you. Let me go back to my Creatorwood tab, or uh, I have way too many tabs open. Let me reorganize my tabs. We were not there. We were in this tab. No, we weren't. I will find the tab and I'll show you. But I mean, again, there's other ways to test the viability of your film. I'm not saying you have to use Creatorwood. Remember, you own all of the content that you create in Creatorwood. Like your films are your films. But if you did want to use Creatorwood to test the viability of your content, you can publish anything for free to the platform. You can charge any amount for your films, even as little as 10 cents per episode, and you'll keep 80% of the revenue, which, mind you, that's nowhere else does that. Microtransactions are very rare. We've enabled microtransactions and give you a super high revenue cut on it. Roughly the 20% that goes to Creatorwood, 10% goes to payment processors, about 5% to server costs. So we're keeping on average, we're maybe getting 5% and you're getting like basically all of the net that comes from this story because it's yours and you get the emails, the people who follow you. But what's great is you can see for each episode exactly how many people watch it and what the completion rate is. So you can see when people are hooked and if they're retained by your pilot. You can literally see that and then upload a new edition of your pilot if you want to make it better, or use it as data to inform your strategy. Also, for all of you who are, going to be pitching pilots to execs and all things of that, literally, this is the same data they're thinking about. Like we're all operating in the same world here. So if you could show them, hey, here's my pilot. I got 50 viewers to finish this percent of it on average. That's pretty cool. Like that's another strong data point. Who is coming to them with this data? No one. So data is power, knowledge is power. Creatorwood is the tool designed to give you that power on the creation and the distribution side. Nope, we're not going to do it for you. The films don't make themselves. Likewise, the fans don't just magically find you. And we'll talk more about that. But the possibility is here. And I think that's the power. So that would be my response to that. Let's see. I'm so into this. Nobody does a boot camp for AI that I've seen. These cats are not okay. Hugh, can you please reach out to? Yeah, I understand. This is a composite image issue. We can help with this, Hugh. Reach out to our support. I can even help in a call with you individually after all this, and we can sort it through. Ultimately, this is like we're in beta. There's going to be like little things that our movie machine could do better, and it seems like we can adjust some of the back end to produce a better output for you. So I think well, let's just make sure the team's aware of it and our support that we can like prioritize that as an improvement. So super exciting. Does the image of the character reference have to be straight on for the AI to be accurate? Um, yeah, preferably. That's better. Although I know me and Yumi are going to talk about start frames too. Start frames has been the hardest part to nail down in this. It's the magic of what makes it consistent, and it works well like 80 to 90% of the time. But those final 10% of shots can be annoying. And since we're in beta, we're really working to get it to 100%. So we really ask for all of your help because we can only test so much on our own when it's like, okay, we've tried this scene, we tried that scene, but you all have so many different unique scenes that we can throw in this and see what happens. What about creating trailers? Do you have a workshop on that? I do, Jordan. You're highlighting one of my future gifts. We're not going to spoil it yet, but I have a future gift coming. Uh, uh, yeah, you are a movie producer. You are the movie machine, Tom. You are the movie machine. Um, Um, I just had a naughty thought, Tom says. Can we create? Oh, no, no, you cannot, Tom. You cannot. Uh, you cannot. This is why, because of that, why we have restrictions on that. But those restrictions are a little bit too restrictive, and we're trying to loosen it up, but we want to loosen it up without allowing lots of very interesting things that could like very much, I think, would ruin the credibility of this new industry we're trying to build potentially. So we want to like be careful and balance like long-term credibility with like short-term. We do want you guys to be able to at least create, not porn, but things that are a little bit more risky than we allow. But like I have to be open and honest in that like AI is improving and these safety systems aren't perfect. And with a lot of this trust and safety stuff, we can afford a failure rate of zero, right? We really can't afford it to not be 100%. Therefore, we are being very careful until we're confident in that and just being overly restrictive. I don't love that, but I love that more than the alternative, which is not only violating the long-term viability of this ecosystem, but there's like some very dangerous and harmful things people could create using this technology that is something I have to think about that you guys shouldn't worry about because you all are awesome and won't create that. But as someone who runs the platform, it's very much top of mind for me. And it's something that we want to enable good people to create great things, and we want to enable or disable bad actors from doing bad things. And right now, sometimes in our pursuit of keeping bad actors from doing bad things, some good people with good intentions won't be able to generate their shots. In that case, you're not charged for it, and we'll try and find a workaround. And we're going to get better over time. Francis, we'll see you later. Yes, Kimberly, exactly. Think about it this way, Kimberly, like instead of a subscription, like there's AI cost for us at every step of the process. And we've again tried to lower the barrier to entry as low as we can, but we're just, passing along those costs to you. And so we can run all the AI steps every step of the process. Because every step of the process essentially is using AI. You're only paying when you use AI, effectively. You don't pay when AI is not used. You pay when AI is used. Um, Mia, are you looking for investors at all? That would be a separate conversation. I'm mostly interested in people and like I want you all to invest smartly in your own film careers and us to help you build all of your businesses. I think there's exciting stuff there. But for certain, I live in San Francisco and you can imagine there's a lot of investors out here. We want to be able to take a long-term view on being able to help all of you and be able to build this ecosystem out. So there'll be some interesting ways you see us invest into this in the coming months, really, that you'll see some announcements from me. But nothing to announce on that front right now. So Paul says, in terms of storytelling, um, if one is working on a thriller or horror or action, what are the current limitations? Paul, it's a great question. I'm still figuring it out. That's my honest answer. Like certain, it's so with gore and violence in particular, like it's think about it, it's like an AI model. Like we don't want extremely harmful, like extremely gory things. So if it's like super, super gory, like slasher, it won't go through. But sometimes like stuff that isn't very violent is flagged as violent. And then sometimes stuff that is pretty violent still goes through. So like the extremes are off limits for now, but the stuff in the gray area, which we very much want to allow, the moderate violence and even heavy violence in some instances, it's sometimes denied, it sometimes isn't. And when it's denied, sometimes we can fix it for you by like we call it sanitization. We try and sanitize the shot to like get around it. It's what we're dealing with right now. It's one of the limitations of where we're at right now. And I think this will be something that adjusts over time. Tom, great question on the photorealism. Yeah, the if you choose photorealism, it's not 100% photorealistic, which you'll see. It's pretty good. It's not 100%. We're working to improve that. Um, I'd say right now that's going to be something we could probably nail in the next couple months. There's some of these things that are like 90% of the way there, but we need to get to 100%. That's one of them. Like if you're looking for perfect photorealism, you're not going to really get that from the movie machine in this moment in time, but you will at some point in the future. So I guess stay tuned. And it's definitely something we're about. Um, no, I mean, slasher is Steven. So, Steven, this is really important. Everyone needs to understand this. We don't get to choose all the restrictions. We work with other companies who have restrictions they place on us. I don't get to say Michael's role, what gets made with AI. Absolutely not. I do not get to do that. I don't have that power. I don't rule all of AI. So there's things that we send to AI that it will deny or not. And there's guidelines that we have to follow in order to be able to work with these companies. And we are working with the best possible AI video model partners that exist. And they are over time loosening up the restrictions as we build trust with them. But we have our hands tied right now. Like we just do. And I get it because I get their situation. They don't want to allow harmful content that could, like, think about, if you use your imagination for just a second, you could think of horrible things that could be created using this that could be deep fakes of real people, right? That's the issue here. We need to protect against deep fakes. Fiction is fine. Deep fakes is not. Because if you start to make real life things that are not real, that are very out there, you can start to. I want to be clear. Like, this is a very powerful technology. Like, yes, we can change Hollywood. We also can, like, damage governments and things like that. So that's the issue, Stephen. So when you think about it like that, I hope you understand where our hands are tied. If I could do that, I would let it in a second, but it's not even my decision. It's decisions where we work with other partners and other companies, because every AI company is essentially using other AI companies because all of it's built on foundational models and, the research and labs powering this. And that is a limitation, but I want to be clear that it's in place for good reason. Like, it really is. Like, people are trying to be responsible about this, and I think it's important to be responsible. Um, so these are limitations that I'm sure will be lifted with time, but I can't put a timeline on it. I can't put a timeline on it. I don't know. But that's why they're in place. Because imagine if X public figure got deep faked in a video and was shot. That would, and again, in a video, in a fictional story, that's awesome. And when it actually is a deep fake of a real human being, not great. And as you'll see, like, you can try and mess around with this stuff. Like, you can deep fake pretty easily. And I don't recommend you all do that, but you can. You can. If you wanted to upload someone you find in the street and take a video of them and then bring them into the movie machine and make them a character, you could. R-rated stuff. Same kind of deal, Jordan, around think deep fakes and imagine if that got out. So R-rated stuff is kind of fine with audio. It's fine. Audio is great. Audio is fine. The issue is when you get to, like, genitalia in a video, imagine what deep fakes could do to that. Like, you could take a picture of me right now in deep fake. If we allowed R-rated stuff truly, you could create really harmful stuff about me or anyone. So that's why it's not allowed right now. These are solutions that will be solved, right? But this is why right now you have to think about some of these unique limitations. But that said, too, like, Hollywood also has to be very careful with R-rated stuff too, and doesn't necessarily allow, like, lots of genitalia. So you're not going to be able to. That happens in Hollywood, but you're not going to be able to get genitalia on Creatorwood. I doubt it. Um, yeah, I'm glad you all understand it. I mean, like, there's funny jokes that can be made about people, Reg. But it's something I had to take very seriously, because in these early days, if we, like Willow, you said, if we overstep, we basically can be sued to oblivion. Like, we won't exist anymore. And I'm not here telling you it's perfect today and this is it. I'm here telling you this is the beginning of a future. We're at chapter one, scene one together, and I want to make sure this movie is still filming at scene 10, scene 100. And I think if we go too far now, we could really not have anything. We could lose it all. So that's not happening. But that's why. And I know it stinks as an individual storyteller who has the best of intentions. It really does stink. Um, but it's how it works for now. It won't be forever. We're confident in that. We are confident in that. It's just a problem with time. Okay, that was a good diversion. It was very good as a tangent, because it's important and it's a question that I've also been frustrated with myself. Are you kidding? I've been very frustrated with it. Um, Kevin, they're not. That's the whole point. You can deep fake any celebrity or brand right now, which is why AI is restricting generating harmful content. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Like, deep fakes are very easy. Therefore, imagine if AI allowed you to do all these crazy things with a deep fake, because you can deep fake right now. That's easy. Yeah, and the technology has not been built to really protect deep fakes. And this might be something we have to invest in, right? This is where we are trying to be at the forefront. We're at the absolute forefront, but we're not trying to, like, break the world here. So that is exactly it, Kevin. Because you can deep fake, it's restrictive. It's restrictive because it's one thing to have, like, a joke of, like, the president in the White House, but it's another thing to have it be, like, again, other harmful imagery. No, you probably won't, Kevin. Like, brand entertainment, like, you've seen, I'm sure we've all seen on social media, famous people that have been deep faked with AI, right? Um, the problem is that the deepfake protection is still getting better, right? So it's not that it's going to want to do it, but sometimes it does. Therefore, there's a lot of heavy restrictions on the content that's created in a bad way. Um, yeah, and then yeah, no, I get it. South Park is interesting. Um, and then Andrew says, yeah, so I think this, Andrew, is where you get it. You get it. Like audio is half of the experience here. And using our art as a filmmaker, even now with these limitations, we can still do a lot of things. Think about AI, like right now, special effects, easy, right? Where special effects in traditional Hollywood cost a lot of money. It costs the same to produce every single shot. It's charged on a per second basis. A more complex shot oftentimes doesn't render that much more expense. The issue is that there's restrictions in those shots. You have to get creative in your storytelling to still get the same message and experience across. And yes, I hope that limitation is lifted with time, but um, it's one of those things like I hate it, and like I'm sorry to not give you guys the answer you want, but it's in place for good reason right now, and it won't be forever. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a great time for animated kid shows, that's for sure. It's a great time.